Welcome to episode 29 of the Talking Fires podcast. I'm your host, Ben Fadden, here today by myself with recapping a pretty entertaining Arizona Diamondbacks series, Padres Diamondbacks, that happened over the weekend. A lot of stuff to break down, a lot of stuff to get into. Going into this series, this was definitely one of those series where there probably wasn't as much interest, obviously, as the Dodgers series in terms of a nationalist perspective. This series was supposed to be very lopsided. The Padres were supposed to roll right over the Diamondbacks. And you could say it kind of happened and it kind of didn't. Padres ended up winning the series today, recording on Sunday after the Padres took the series finale. But in my opinion, I not as satisfied as I thought I would be if I told myself, before Friday night's game that the Padres would come out with a series win. So we'll get to that. But first, just recapping game one, game two, game three. Again, an interesting series. We'll get to my player of the series. We'll do a little preview of the Cincinnati series and then tell you the next episode that will come with Jacob this week. So that'll be interesting as well. So game one, Padres, they end up taking this one 11-5. This was definitely the best game of the series in terms of if you're a Padre fan wanting a easy win. 11-5, a 6-run win. Both teams had 13 hits in this game. But the big deciding factor in this was Fernando Tatis Jr. And that, we've said that many times this year. I believe he has a 6-6 WAR since the start of 2020, which is absolutely insane. And he definitely added to that on Friday night with a 3 home run game. His first 3 at bats, his 23rd, 24th, and 25th home runs of his season. The 3rd home run that he hit in the 4th inning, a 2-run homer scoring Tommy Pham, who was hit by a pitch, who almost felt like he was going to go kill the pitcher after he hit him. But the 3rd homer that Tatis hit, to me, was the most impressive home run because it was opposite field. Those first 2, the second one was like a line drive, so that was impressive too. But we see, pulled home runs all the time. So when he can go oppo like that, and it was essentially to one of the deepest parts in the park, it wasn't dead center, but it was right center, pretty deep in the ballpark. You got to be very impressed. We already knew he could do that. He's shown that. But to be consistently great on Friday night, you do it in your first 2 at bats, have MVP chance raining down, and to do it the 3rd home run, it was just an electrifying atmosphere. Yes, it was not a sellout like obviously Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, which were obviously games against the Dodgers in a much more competitive and much more uh, ruckus atmosphere, if you will. But so the big story: 3 homers from Fernando Tatis Jr. Jake Cronenworth also homered back to back with Tatis. There were back to back innings with back to back home runs. I don't know when the last time that happened, but I thought that was very impressive. Pham and Tatis do it in the first, and then in the second, Tatis and Cronenworth do it. That was Cronenworth's 4th straight game with a home run. I believe that was a 9 or 10 game hitting streak at the time. It would end on Saturday in a very bad loss, which we'll get to. But just an impressive showing from Jake Cronenworth. We know the last couple of years, ever since he was on this big league roster on opening day last year, we can see what he's doing, especially when he took over for Hosmer when he was kind of sick last year. At first, we've seen that he can use it. He has a good bat. He's consistent at the plate. He's one of those Tony Gwynn-esque hitters that doesn't strike out too much. I know he struck out a little bit more as of late, but he hardly struck out at the beginning of the season. And he makes a lot of contact, and that's all you want. He's been hitting third. I foresee him hitting third for a while because of how consistent he is. And it allows Jace Tingler, it allows the coaching staff to be consistent, putting that same lineup out there, and it allows the coaching staff and the Padres organization as a whole to be pretty dang comfortable and knowing that, okay, Jake is the 3 hitter. Manny's the 4 hitter. We're probably going to get to Manny because Jake's going to get on, or Tatis is going to get on hitting second, or Fam's going to get on hitting first. So he's just one guy that, hands it off to the next. And that's definitely what you want. Your 3 hitter, he can drive and runs, but he can also get on base when you need it to. So great performance from Tatis on Friday. Great performance from Cronenworth these last couple of weeks that improved the Padres to 46-32 with the 11-5 win. Chris Paddock did struggle. I went on the Down to the Wire podcast, which should be coming out soon. And the guy there asked me what I thought of Chris Paddock on Friday. And I thought that the first couple of innings, he pitched well. He kind of had some bad luck. He had a liner to Hosmer. When was that? In the first or second inning? I think in the second inning, and Hosmer should have caught it. He jumped and he dropped it, and that ended up scoring a run. So just unlucky a little bit in the first 2 innings, but in the third inning, that's where he got hit hard. He said it himself post game. He said that this was kind of one of the first times since that IL stint that he kind of got caught himself thinking too much. And when you don't want to think too much on the mound, because then you're going to be shaking off the catcher. You're going to be you're not going to be in the right headspace to attack. When you're thinking too much, you're not in the headspace. You're not thinking about attacking the offense. You're thinking about, oh, where am I going to have this? Where am I going to throw this pitch? What pitch am I going to throw? There's just too much. You got to let Victor Caratini do that. And he said it post game. He caught himself doing that. So I wouldn't think that he'd have a duplicate performance of what he did on Friday, because he's going to be in the right mindset again during this next road trip when he starts again. So I think that's just one of these starts where you toss it away. Yeah, he didn't perform well against a bad team, but just flush it down the toilet and move on. The bullpen, though, 2 1/3 innings from Paddock, so that left a lot of innings that had to be filled by the bullpen. And credit to them, they didn't give up any runs at all. 6 different relievers: Nick Ramirez, Miguel Diaz, Tim Hill, Austin Adams, Craig Stammen, and Mason Thompson. They all didn't give up any runs. It was good to see Mason Thompson finish that game, even though it wasn't any high leverage situation. But again, he's a rookie. His, I believe, second appearance with the Padres in the big leagues. So it was good to see him, close that out and get, he debuted against the Dodgers, in a ruckus atmosphere. So to kind of appear against a team that isn't as good, you're not all amped up. So I'm sure he had a lot of nerves, but he got through it. So props to him. Padres win this one 11-5. Moving on to game 2. I thought this was going to be obviously a good chance to win and guarantee a series win. Merrill Kelly had an ERA over 5 entering the game. He wasn't great. He just is not a great pitcher. It's simple as that. And we had Dinelson Lamet on the mound. And Dinelson Lamet, he's seen these last few starts before this one that he had been a guy that he's finally letting it loose. It looked great out of his arm. It looked like he was healthy finally. And that ended up not being the case when he had to exit this game in the third inning after his velocity decreased to the low 90s on his fastball. Kevin Acee said he threw a changeup, but I think it was a fastball. It was just that slow that the system thought it was a changeup instead of a fastball. But that's just how low the velocity was in that third inning. And Jace Tingler said after the game that he had experienced a little bit of forearm tightness, I guess. He had a hard time gripping the ball. And then Tingler said after today's game on Sunday that it's probably going to be a 10-day IL stint. They're going to hope that Dinelson Lamet, that's all, the 10 days is all they're going to need. He just said it was forearm inflammation. And again, they're hoping that swelling can go down and he feels better. So hopefully that's the situation with Lamet. Hopefully that it does get better. The swelling does go down. But this is a chance for Ryan Weathers to come in. He got sent down to the minors because they wanted to limit his innings. At least that's why I thought they did. He was coming out of the bullpen before he got sent down. You'd think that they sent him down to limit his innings, but then they gave him they had him starting games, and now you're thinking, oh well, they don't have enough room to start him in the big league level, but they're trying to shop him as a starter so they can get more value out of him. But now they can still shop him if they want to. I don't know why you would. Ryan Weathers has been one of the Padres' best pitchers this year, but now you have an opportunity to still, I guess, shop him at the big league level against big league competition. So I guess that maybe that increases his value even more. No, I'm not a proponent of trading Ryan Weathers. I At this moment I'd rather trade Mackenzie Gore than Ryan Weathers. You know, Gore just seems like he can't get it together. He probably needs to change his delivery a little bit because he's in Arizona right now. He's not even in El Paso. He's just been struggling. He gave up a few home runs his last couple of starts ago, I think. He just cannot find it. And I think it's the same problems that we saw in spring training, command issues, or when he was throwing strikes, he wasn't throwing strikes where the catcher wanted him to throw it. So a lot of consistency out of Gore. And so I think Weathers is the guy that they're going to need to depend on when Lamet's out. And I don't think that they're going to have the luxury of trading for him, because if they do, then who's going to be that insurance starter if you don't acquire anyone, if Lamet gets hurt again, or this swelling doesn't go down. There's a lot of variables that doesn't make me very, um, you know, I guess glass half full on Lamet, just because he's now hurt himself twice this year with that same forearm stuff. So that's the Lamet situation. A terrible game all around in the second game of the series. Um, it was one of those games. I watched the whole thing because I was keeping score. And for you guys, and that was a long, painful game. It felt like 5 hours. I think it was like 3.5 hours. I'm surprised that many people stayed at the game that late. It got, it was a blanket giveaway, so I understand why people wanted to go. But a lot of people stayed, and I guess they didn't have anything to do on a Saturday night with the Padres getting absolutely demolished by a team that had lost 24 straight games at the time. But the Diamondbacks, snapped their 24-game road losing streak. It would have been their 25th had they lost, but they didn't. A 9-run win. Padres, here's the story of it: 4 hits, Diamondbacks 16. So when a team has 4 times the amount of hits as the Padres do, that's probably a recipe for success for the other team, and obviously not for the Padres. Merrill Kelly, props to him. He kept the Padres offense off balance. 99 pitches, 6 innings, struck out 5. Obviously, one thing that led to his success is that he didn't walk anyone. He didn't issue free passes. So when you don't issue free passes, Padres offense has to capitalize on mistakes inside the strike zone, or they have to do it by getting hits, getting home runs, and that didn't happen. That's really the story of the game. There's not a whole lot more to say about that. Ketel Marte exited the game with a hamstring injury. He had come off the IL before he was activated with a right hamstring strain. So maybe that's the same hamstring that, kind of messed him up there in the first inning after he singled off Lamet. Josh Reddick came in for him, and he ended up scoring a run in that first inning, and he got 2 more hits, including an RBI. So that worked out for the Diamondbacks. Machado and Tatis came out early because it was a blowout. There was no reason to have them out there. But Will Myers came in. He didn't start the game. It looked like it was going to be a day off for him. He didn't start the game. He goes into right field in the 8th inning, which didn't really make sense. But I understand that they wanted to get Tatis out more than they wanted Myers to stay out of the game the entire game. So that's the reason why they had to shift Profar back into the infield so that Tatis could come out of the game. So that's the reasoning behind that, if anyone is wondering there. But good job from Mason Thompson. Good job from Miguel Diaz. They both didn't allow a run out of the bullpen. But it was a frustrating loss. The Diamondbacks are a really bad team this year. I was expecting them to win a series. They did. But you're hoping them to sweep a team like this, especially when they come off sweeping the defending World Series champs. You think that they'd have a good chance at sweeping a team that's going to be fighting for a number 1 pick in the 2022 draft. So it was frustrating, but you got to move on. And the Padres absolutely did move on. They win Sunday's game 5-4. improved to 47-33, 14 games under over 500. This was a game where it started off great. Um, Zach Gallen was taking forever to throw the ball. He kept throwing over to first base for Jake Cronenworth. And that first just took absolutely forever. But a good first inning. Pham hits the leadoff homer, his second leadoff homer in the last 3 games. He did it on Friday night. I believe it was to right field. But so that was 1-0. Then Grisham doubles. He then scores on Cronenworth's RBI single up the middle. So Cronenworth hopefully starts a new hitting streak. But so a good 2-run inning in the first. Then late in the game, let's see, in the 7th inning, Tatis, it seemed like everything was good, and then he makes a bit, with the throwing, he's been a lot better. So I do want to give him credit that he's been a lot better throwing wise. As of late, these last few weeks, we haven't really heard much about that, and so props to him for working on that with Bobby Dickerson or whoever they did with that. Um, and I know he wants to get better at it, so it seems like the work's paid off. But he makes a bad throwing error in the 7th that allows 2 runs to score. Diamondbacks took the 3-2 lead there. Um, and then they tack on another run to make it a 2-run game on a sac fly. But then the Padres bats, they came alive. Credit them. In the bottom of that 7th inning, they score 3 runs. Fernando Tatis Jr. I always say this to people that want to doubt him or whatever, and I was one of those guys earlier in the season that, and me and Jacob was too. We just weren't confident that he was going to get this throwing. I shouldn't say that. We weren't pleased, obviously, with what we were seeing from Fernando Tatis Jr. in terms of his defense, in terms of his throwing. It was the easy throws where we had a lot of time that he made all these errors. But one of those things was, well, we're going to have to live with it because he's our best offensive player. He's our MVP, and he's going to probably make up for it most times on the offensive end of the game. And he did that on Sunday, coming through with an RBI single after 2 runs had already scored in that inning, gave the Padres a 5-4 lead, and that's exactly how they win this game. Pagan shuts it down in the 8th. Melanson gets his 24th save of the year, shutting it down in the 9th. So it was a good game, a good team win. Tommy Pham said after the game, things don't always roll your way. They didn't really, especially in that 7th inning when the Padres had to come back from a 2-run deficit after Tim Hill struggled a little bit there. But while things didn't roll their way the whole game, they fought back, and it was a good team win, just like Pham said. Pham obviously was great, a homer, a single. He scored 2 runs, obviously with the homer, and then scoring on an RBI single in the 7th. Just a good day all around. And again, Darvish, I think he started this game 6 innings, gives up 1 run, a wild pitch, so he's not going to get mad at anyone else but him on that. But he goes 7. He has 7 strikeouts. Struck out the side earlier in the game. The first inning, struck out Van Meter, Pavin Smith, Asdrubal Cabrera on a 12-pitch first, and that kind of set him up for success here on Sunday afternoon. 93 pitches. I wasn't sure if they were going to send him out for the 7th, but the bullpen, Pagan, Hill, Melanson, Adams, they were all rested, so it wasn't that much of a surprise once I, thought back at my bullpen usage charts and just remembered that all of the lower guys on the totem pole were the ones that threw yesterday in the blowout. So that meant the bigger name guys, the better back end bullpen guys were available. So Padres win this one 5-4. I mentioned at the beginning of this episode that I wasn't too pleased with the series win, despite them obviously getting the series win, because I thought that they would do it in a much cleaner fashion, if that makes sense. Monday was clean, pretty much. That was a great win. Tatis obviously with the 3 home runs. But Saturday, obviously a terrible win. They just couldn't get anything going. Merrill Kelly shut them down. Just seemed like there wasn't a ton of energy. And when it was like 6-0 early, I tweeted out, yeah, don't give up on this team, because it was the Diamondbacks. If it was the Dodgers, I wouldn't have tweeted that out. But they just didn't do anything offensively in that game. And then Sunday, it was a great team win, like I mentioned, but I felt like there were chances I felt like this was an opportunity for the Padres to win by more than one run. Obviously, if Fernando wasn't, you know, maybe if he just held the ball, or well, he's not going to hold it on a double play possibility, but obviously if he made a cleaner throw, we wouldn't be in this scenario, and I probably would be more pleased because it would have been a cleaner, uh, game, a cleaner win, and therefore a better series win. So I'm not trying to be Mr. Negative, but at the same time, I did want to point out that they're playing feels like a minor league team right now, especially with no Cato Marte pretty much the entire Saturday game, and then obviously on Sunday. Just felt like they had opportunities. Obviously a great first inning, but they had a runner in scoring position in the third, didn't get anything from it. Had two runners in scoring position in the fifth, didn't get anything from it. Hosmer flew out to right to end the inning with former Padre Ryan Buchter on the mound. Obviously the big seventh inning, but then went down quick in the eighth. I just felt like, like I mentioned, those couple innings where they had those scoring opportunities. You're not going to score every time when you have runners in scoring position, but at the same time, when you score one run on Saturday, I think that I just felt like they were going to come out, more capitalizing more, if you will, than they did. But again, being back to Mr. Positive, a great series win. They had to win this series. I know it's 3 games in June. You're saying it's 3 games in June, Ben. Just swept the Dodgers. Why is it a must win series? Well, because they're playing the Diamondbacks, and these are games that great teams win. These are great teams. The reason that they're great and the reason that they finish with over 90 wins and stuff like that is because they capitalize on these easy matchups, or so-called easy matchups that they have. In the Padres, if they would have lost this series, they wouldn't have capitalized on that. So they improved to 47-33, like I said, 14 games over 500. The Giants finally lost today, obviously recording on Sunday again. So that's good. But last time I saw, the Dodgers were absolutely crushing the Cubs on Sunday Night Baseball. Rizzo just went out of the game with an injury. So Bellinger had to walk off Saturday. So just doesn't look great in that end. But again, a good series. It was kind of hampered by the Lamet injury. Lamet feels like was going to be a big part of this team, and he's someone that you just can't rely on this year if you're the Padres organization. You can't bank on him being healthy, when it comes to the trade deadline, and if a team or a couple teams, want to trade you a starting pitcher, you can't say no. You can't. You can say no, but you can't say no with the reasoning being, oh, we have Lamet. Oh, we have Weathers. Weathers is a great pitcher, but what happened to the innings limit? Why are you sending him down? So Lamet's probably going to come up, or excuse me, Weathers is going to come up for Lamet on these 10 days on the IL. Um, and I expect him to start, obviously, pitch well. He's built up because he's been starting in El Paso when he was sent down after, I think during that Colorado series. So I'm expecting good things out of Weathers, and I think there will be a positive because Weathers can build his trade stock if that's what Preller is, gearing towards. Again, like I mentioned, I'm not a proponent of trading Weathers because I think he's going to be a big part in us winning a World Series in October, whether it's this year or next year. I just think has one of those mindsets, those aggressive mindsets. Having another lefty like that, a young lefty, doesn't hurt. So this isn't the time to be trading away young guys that have proven that they can pitch in the big league at the big league level. Gore has not done that. So that's what I'm saying. I don't want to trade Gore because I still believe in the guy, but I think he needs to make changes to his windup or maybe to his mechanics, to accelerate his path to the majors. But player of the series, I would say, is probably Fernando Tatis Jr. I know he made the air Sunday, like I mentioned, but the 3 home run game, that's probably the best performance I've seen him have live. He's, he had those 2 homers with the grand slam earlier this year in Seattle. He had a great year last year, but no fans were in attendance. So hitting 3 home runs, I don't care that it was against the Diamondbacks. It was still very, very impressive. To be honest, you guys know I watch every Padre game essentially. I don't really remember the last time a Padre hit 3 homers in a game other than Christian Villanueva a few years back. I believe it was against the Rockies. Was that 2018, 2019, something like one of those years where he took over for, I believe, Chase Headley, who, believe it or not, was the starting third baseman at the beginning of the year. So great. I'll give Tatis the player of the series. Good start from Darvish. Not so good start from Paddock. Lamet obviously leaving early, so no starting pitcher was going to do that. Um, Cronenworth or Pham definitely had good series as well. They keep hitting well, and that's why they keep being at the top of the lineup. But I'll give this one to Tatis. He comes up with the big game winning, go ahead RBI single on Sunday. On Saturday, yeah, no one really played well, but he did beat out a single, um, and he walked, so he got on base twice in what was a lopsided, pretty depressing loss. I'll put it that way. So that's my player of the series. Uh, the other thing I did want to mention though is if the player of the series might be Tatis, but the group of the series, if you will, which is definitely the bullpen, how they stepped up. Paddock and Lamet combined for 4 2/3 innings, I think, in the first 2 games of this series. So a lot of work had to be done by that bullpen. Chris Matt stepped up, just eating innings. Mason Thompson. Who else should I? Let's see. Nick Ramirez, Miguel Diaz. They all stepped up pretty big, and it was needed because you don't want to. I know there's an off day tomorrow on Monday before the Cincinnati series, but you don't want to tax the bullpen when you don't need to, especially coming off the Dodgers series. I know they had an off day, but coming off that, where a lot of intensity, a lot of emotion, you don't want to overtax guys against the Diamondbacks. So good job by the young guys in the bullpen all around. And then real quickly before we get out of here, quick series preview with the Reds. The Reds, obviously, we saw them, uh, swept them at the beginning of the homestand. That's going to be probably one of the best, memories of the season with Victor Hosmer's 2-run homer to tie it, Caratini's walk-off homer, sweeping that 4-game series, which obviously led to what's has to be up there as one of the it is the best series this year that the Padres have played, sweeping the Dodgers. Just how much that meant to the city. Um, you know, Dodgers World Series champs, obviously. They won the division 9 years in a row. Blah, blah, blah. We're so tired of hearing all that. Dodger fans are annoying. They're loud. They can't shut up. And the Padres did shut them up, including Trevor Bauer. You should go watch his YouTube vlog. He was absolutely depressed. And it was amazing to see as a Padres fan. So you can check that out. I usually don't watch those vlogs because they're absolutely stupid. He's so self-centered. Um, I love those behind the scenes stuff, but it could be any other guy, please, because that guy's just so annoying. And I'm glad I say this that he's not in a Padre uniform because I would not want to be paying that guy $40 million a year um, to be a pitcher. So yeah, Dodgers can have fun with him. But a great series. The Reds. Leading into obviously talking about the Red series coming up in Cincinnati. Um, Again, I expect a series win out of this. You got Snell, Musgrove, and then probably Paddock in those 3 games before the Padres continue going on to the East Coast. So I think it'll be a series win. Um, Maybe you could say that the Reds could win the series because they've seen us again. They're motivated or something like that because they don't want to get swept again. They don't want to lose another series to the Padres. And they're at home, whatever. But the fact of the matter is the Padres are a better team, and they should win this series. If Blake Snell can pitch like he did against the Dodgers, find that changeup again, be aggressive with the fastball. I keep saying it. Have a consistent game plan out there. If he can do that, that's gonna set him up very, very great to get that first win of the series. And then with Musgrove going, I have full confidence in him. And Paddock, I have confidence in him because I don't think he's going to get in his head like he did in this last start last Friday against the Diamondbacks. So that's the Padres Reds, a little preview there. Expect them to win the series. I am. going to get Bobby Cardosa on the podcast. He is the famous now Padre fan that flipped off the Dodger fan um, that we saw on national television on TV during that Padre Dodger series at Petco this past week. That went absolutely viral, and Padre fans wanted to, pay for his beer and dinner, and he's just he's come off as a San Diego legend. He said that he'll join. He's in Boston, but he said he'll join sometime this week, I think, and so that'll be fun to catch up with him, get the origin of the story, what the environment was, what caused him to do that, what the Dodger fans' reaction was, his thoughts on the Padres this season. It'll be a fun conversation. We'll let you know when that comes out, obviously. And then tomorrow, I think that's when we're going to schedule. Me and Jacob will be back together discussing who we think should be representing the Padres in the All-Star game. There's a lot of guys out there. Tatis is obviously headlining it. The All-Star finalist vote came out today. The top three at each position, top nine in the outfield move on to the second phase, and then everyone votes among those guys to vote who's going to be a starter. Tatis was the only Padre that moved on. He received over 2 million votes. He's going to be a slam dunk starting shortstop in this game. He's the face of the league, probably the NL MVP right now if I had a case, because he's an everyday player, not a pitcher who pitches every 5 days like DeGrom does. But Grisham Myers fan did not finish in the top nine, obviously. Winker and Castellanos, I believe, did. They've had tremendous seasons, so they do deserve that. And Padres obviously playing them coming up this week. Tatis finished first, so he moves on to the second phase. Like I said, Machado finished fifth. No, I think he finished fourth with third base. Cronenworth finished fifth. Gavin Lux got into the second phase when he's hitting under 230. So that just tells you how stupid these Dodger fans are, thinking that they can vote, that they think Gavin Lux is actually deserves to be an all-star. That guy would be in the minor leagues if he was on the Padres. So in terms of if we're comparing him to Jake Cronenworth, what else? Who else did I miss? So Hosmer finished fourth, which he obviously doesn't deserve to be way up there. He hasn't had that type of season. He's been clutch in big situations, but he had over 400,000 votes. That's just props to you guys, right? That's props to all the Padre fans like myself, like Jacob, that voted all Padres, including Hosmer, and that's a big chunk of those guys that's a chunk of those votes that got him that. So that's the All-Star finalists kind of things. We're gonna have an episode choosing our Padre All-Star representatives. I think there'll be a few, and I'll reveal who I think tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. This has been the latest episode of the Talking Friars podcast, episode 29. Thank you for listening, and until then, let's go Padres.